Hello and welcome to this special point 0.5 episode of Carved in Stone. I'm your host, Shawn Chabam, and with me is returning guest, referee extraordinaire Chip, aka Pinky and the Brawn, as he is known in the roller derby world. Chip, thanks for being back here today. How are you doing?
I am great. At the time of recording, football season is just kicking off. I've been listening to all the Eagles podcasts. The Phillies are still holding in that wild card position, and the sports world is great going into fall here.
Yeah, and speaking of the sports world, we're going to talk a little sports science fiction today. We've I know you have some ideas on changing Major League Baseball that, as we discussed off air, and I know they're probably never going to happen, or definitely not going to happen.
No,
But
but I mean, think about it. There's negotiating the contracts. The collective bargaining agreement's up. The owners can get behind this. This is a great
yeah,
plan for them. The players won't, but the owners can get behind it.
right. It's always the owners who are trying to make out as much as they can. Do you think that we're going to see a lockout?
Oh yeah. I mean, the owners are very in depth with trying to get that salary cap, and the players, rightfully so, don't want it. And that small majority of owners that want to control costs more than they already do are probably going to win that fight against all the other owners that are like, spend more money. That's your problem, not my problem, kind of deal.
Yeah. And I see it both ways because I understand the players not wanting the the salary cap. I mean, they want to make as much money as they can. Professional athletes have a very short window for their careers. And obviously they make a lot of money, but they have a lot of health problems. A lot of them have never had money in their lives before. They don't know how to spend it wisely, and they'll end up broke later in life. But the other side is I like to see different teams competitive, and I think that a salary cap will significantly help that. So, I'm a little tired of seeing the new Yankees, the Dodgers, just completely dominating everybody every year because they have so much more money than everyone else.
I know. And the Yankees have had more money than everybody else. The Phillies have been lumped into that category also. I mean, the Mets try to spend money, but they just made poor decisions with their players that they just keep having a giant payroll that doesn't go anywhere. So, and then you have the extreme, because one of the other parts of the collective bargaining supposedly is that salary floor. So teams would have to spend X number of dollars on their roster that I think maybe not a third, but at least a quarter of the Major League Baseball teams currently don't even hit the proposed floor, that they'd have to do more, which in theory could do parity, but really it's more fun to see owners throw money at a problem.
Yeah, I almost think that you could put the Phillies at this point in that category of teams that spend a lot and then don't see the results. I mean, I know they've been in the playoffs. They were in the World Series just 4 years ago, but to me, that's all for naught when you don't get a title. I mean, when they signed Bryce Harper, I knew that there would be some years left on that contract that we wish weren't there. But I was okay with it, A, because he used to absolutely destroy the Phillies when he was with the Nationals, and you can't score against them when you're playing with them. And B, because I thought that this would be around the time that we would start saying, maybe this was too long, but I thought we'd have had at least one World Series title with him by now. So, um,
I mean,
you know,
and the sad part is the Phillies have run into the Dodgers how many years now in the playoffs, and the Dodgers have just been an absolute buzzsaw to not just the Phillies, to anybody. So, yeah, the Phillies have put together a very solid roster. They've spent the money on it. It's just there's other times where an NFL team puts together a solid roster with what they've been given, and they lose five guys to injury reserve, maybe more. Then all of a sudden their season goes haywire on them, and they're up against the cap the next year because of who they signed last season. So
yeah, not to mention the Dodgers have an entire country, Japan, as their minor league team.
oh my God. And then just And just the support that the citizens of the United States who are from Japanese descent support the Dodgers. My God, like that's just extra revenue that they always get from all the Japanese ads that are there, not to mention all those fans buying Otani jerseys and every other player that they can get their hands on.
Yeah, so speaking of running into the Dodgers in the playoffs, you had some ideas on shifting around the MLB postseason. Let's hear a little bit about that.
All right. So the postseason comes down to two words that some people are more familiar with and others in this country maybe not be, and that's promotion and relegation. Now, yes, it's a soccer term. Major League Soccer wants nothing to do with it, and that's absolutely fine. They're trying to keep a closed system. I think it's the USL is trying to develop promotion relegation between their leagues, but it's still years away. But it is the norm in Europe, and it does add a lot of drama to a season. And the playoffs would be dependent upon the science fiction of sports having Major League Baseball teams moving up and down between two different leagues, which could be fun. So the first thing you have to do is Major League Baseball would have to expand to 36 teams. So they need to add 6 more teams somewhere in this country to get 2 even leagues of 18 teams. And each league would have 2 divisions.
Or Canada.
Or Canada. They can go to Canada.
Or,
I mean,
hell,
Vancouver might
even
be able
Mexico.
to afford a team. I mean, Mexico would work. It's just would security concerns overrule the money they can make?
True, true.
But that might be not every area of Mexico has major security concerns. So I don't want to just generalize Mexico. But you get into it, promotion, relegation, you have 2 leagues. The first group of 18 teams, which would be the better of the teams, would be Major League A. The lower of the 2 leagues would be Major League eh. So for our discussion, we have those two things going. Now, divisions, like owners talk about, they want to keep things geographical. It's all to save money. Who cares? They make money. Any person can be in any team can be in any of the 2 divisions, and they play and they go with it. So one league could be named after very popular old Major League Baseball guys. Like you can have the Roberto Clemente League, the Jackie Robinson League, and then each division could be named after like Bud Selig or like Faye Vincent, or like you can pick and name it after whoever, just like the old NHL used to do with the Stanley and the Wales and the Norris and the Patrick and Adams divisions that they used to have back in the day. So 2 leagues, 18 teams. Playoffs. Top in the Major League A, top 4 teams of each division go to playoffs. And you would play, the top team of each division would play the number 8 seed or 7 seed, depending on who was better. And then the runner-up of each division would play the 4 or 5 matchups, and you'd have an 8-team tournament that the division champion and the division runner-up are at least on opposite sides of the bracket, regardless of the overall division record. So they play it out. They're the champions. We go from there. Now, playoffs in this system, the bottom 4 teams actually have to have a relegation playoff. And you would think that would bring drama and eyes to the sport.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because this is one thing that teams that I hear about every single season, especially in the NFL, like drop them down to the XFL, UFL, whatever that other league is called now. My thing is, when there are guys who are on the last year of their contracts, what would be their motivation to play in that? Because they're not going to be on that team the next year anyway if they don't want to be. So what would be their motivation for performing in that relegation tournament?
Well, the 4 teams that are in the relegation tournament, all you have to do is win your series and you stay up in the major league. So you're getting film on yourself, number 1. if you show that you're not interested in doing it, teams are going to figure that out. And even if you're not going to be back in that team, someone may not want you back in another league or another team in general. So they always say film doesn't lie. So if you say you're not trying your best, teams are going to figure that out, and your prospects of getting signed again might go down if you want to get signed again. Plus, most athletes all have the inherent attitude to win, regardless of what situation they're in, because they want to say they're better than the next guy. And I'm sure to get to the major league level in any position, you got to have that desire to prove that you're better than the guy that has your spot right now. So I think just the intensity that an athlete brings, as well as his desire to get another job after that contract expires, is going to want them to play. So, but now we're not talking about, when we say relegation, we're not talking of going from major league to the AAA level. Like the major league is going to have like maybe 60 to 75% of the revenue structure of the major league A. So if you drop down, you might be forced to cut some players to get under said salary cap or revenue structure that would be negotiated with the players. And then obviously if you go up, you get more money to spend on your team and more resources and just more that you want to stay up in that other league. I mean, right now, and I only follow English Premier League soccer outside of the United States, and the difference between the Premier League and the Championship, which is the next tier down, which is where the teams go from one to the other, is pretty much equivalent to what the Major League contracts are now and what AAA contracts are. So if you take it from A to you at least set how much money they're supposed to spend and give them an opportunity to try and get back to the A league.
Yeah, I like that explanation because I've been aware of the soccer stuff for a long time, but I follow the World Cup, I follow the Philadelphia Union, and I see these transfers and all of this and loans and stuff, but I don't really understand the off the field stuff all that well, to be 100% honest. So I never really understood relegation, so I appreciate that explanation.
Well, the other part of relegation is again, English, and all the other countries have a system very similar. English has, if you envision it, they always talk about it as a pyramid. So the Premier League is at the top and everyone tries to go up. And at the base is the National League, which is the fifth level of English soccer. And in between, there are different leagues that every year at the end of the season, the top 2 or 3 teams from a league go up a level, and the bottom 2 or 3 teams go down a level. So in theory, and this is a Wrexham thing because I've watched Welcome to Wrexham, and Rob Mack and Ryan Reynolds own that team. They started in the National League, which is the lowest level of professional soccer in England, and they've worked their way up to the second level of English soccer, which is the Championship League, in 3 seasons. They had back-to-back promotions, and they just missed out on the playoff to get to the Premier League in the Championship. So basically, in the Premier League, the top 17 teams are safe. They don't go anywhere. The bottom 3 teams have to go from the Premier League and all that money down to the Championship, which is a lot less money. And then they have to fight their way back up to the Premier League. And there's a lot of financial rules and the transfers and loans. We don't need to get into that. But basically, the top 3 teams from League One go to the Championship. The bottom 3 from the Championship go to League One, just like they do between the Championship and the Premier League. And then there's actually so many levels in England that there's actually another team that's been promoted 4 times. They just made their way to League One. I cannot remember their team. I just read about the other day. So the promotion relegation just means these teams are moving back and forth. Now, in this plan, in this sports science fiction, teams are only going between 2 leagues, Major League A and You're not going down to AAA. Everyone's still going to have their farm systems. Everyone's still going to be able to do that. You still go from AAA to a major league somewhere, just depending on where your major league affiliate league is in.
The commissioner of our fantasy football league had an idea, and pretty much everyone was against it, of creating a B league. And if you became what we call last places, the turd, and if you were the turd, you went down to the B league the next year, and you weren't invited back to the A league until you won the B league. And we were just like, dude, no. But um, but I do need to ask you one thing. So the biggest reason why why I've always been against expanding in baseball is because right now you see so many bullpen games. Teams, there are what, 30 teams right now? Teams
Yes.
can't find 5 reliable starters now. And that's why you see we now have an opener, which was never a thing when we were growing up, but now it's pretty common. How, I don't know. Do you think that would be an issue, that we'd just see that the pitching would be really poor because there's a lack of starters?
It would probably dip, because when the Marlins and the Rays came into the league all those years ago, there was a little dip in talent, or so they say. They want you to believe there's a dip in talent when it happens. But eventually, teams are going to make smart personnel decisions to find the right players as they come up and develop them. And instead of having developed 1 or 2 pitchers for the next 5 years, they'd in theory have to develop 3 or 4 now for the more teams that are out there. And again, player personnel would have to be smart about who they're drafting and who they're assigning the value of trying to develop in their farm system. That farm teams would just have to be, in theory, deeper. And I mean, Major League Baseball, again, doesn't want to do this, but they can always add a level. Like they have high A, they have 4 levels of minor league right now. They can always develop a low A, full season low A, just to try and get more players developing up the pipeline that may or may not work out. All those like, hey, he's decent, maybe give him 2 years in a low A, and then if they're good enough, they can make it to high A and go from there, like the normal system. But again, Major League Baseball tried to control costs, and their teams are only allowed 160 contracts, and that's it. And that's why Major League killed a bunch of minor league leagues. What, 10 years ago at this point? I remember I would go to the New York Penn League. They were like right out of college professional level league, and there was like the Pioneer League out in Idaho and Montana, and there was another league, but I don't remember its name. But all 3 of those leagues got nixed by Major League Baseball when they said, nope, only 160 contracts, only 4 levels. And those literal kids some of those players were on their last chances of professional baseball, while most of the teams were just starting out and giving them a taste of what's to come, of what it can be like.
So you talked about developing, and I know you have some interesting ideas on the draft where you would develop your players. Let's hear about what you would change with the MLB draft.
So, and other people have talked about this for other leagues, but in this system with promotion and relegation, instead of what teams being promoted, where you're going to put them in the draft, this could actually work under this system of, depending on where you place in either league, you get X number of dollars to spend and sign draft picks starting on a given day. So you do all your scouting, you can do the combines, and then on, say, June 1, you can start signing players that you scouted and drafted. Now, if a team gets $60 million for their draft picks, they can sign 6 players at $10 million a piece and have them in their system long term, or they can sign 30 people at varying degrees of money, having a couple big ones and a whole bunch of small ones, or you can play Moneyball with all that and sign 120 people at league minimum, I guess, and see which players really develop and just find spots for them in your league somewhere. Because each team knows what they need, and you're still rewarding is a bad way of saying it, but teams that do bad do get a little bit extra than, say, the Dodgers or the Yankees, who win the eventual World Series. So that would really help out. Now, one of the other ideas I put in there was you can sign a futures contract with a player. So, like, let's just say there's a really good baseball player who happens to attend BYU, and they have to do the mission as part of their religious endeavors. You can sign a player to a 2 or 3 year futures contract that when that stuff is up, they can come into the league. Or you want to sign an 18-year-old with a futures contract, give them a 3 years future contract, let them play college, let them develop. And then as soon as they're done with college, they can start with your team, much like the NHL does.
Yeah, the NHL has a confusing system too. They draft a guy and then he's in the juniors, or he can stay in college. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, but the point of that contract is, like, your rights are owned by that team if you choose to sign with them for the amount of time that you negotiate. So if you want to spend 2 years in college to help develop, or the league says, look, we'll give you this 2-year contract, you go to college, we'll give you this scholarship money or NIL money to go to, say, Vanderbilt or Tennessee or Georgia, whoever has a good baseball program. You play 2 years there, get your feet wet. You come out, you're automatically going to start making, first year has 750,000. Your next year is going to be 1.25, and if you hang around for your third year of this contract, you can make $5 million. So you sign someone for 5 years, basically, with only having to give them big money for the last 3.
And then sometimes you, especially in the NHL, you get a Cutter Gauthier. He gets drafted, says he's born to be a Flyer, and then ghosts them.
I mean, let's have some fun. I mean, you have the Lindros controversy also with the Flyers. I mean, not that the way he left, but just how he came to the Flyers and decisions by National Hockey League at the time.
Yeah, I mean, but so here's the difference, though. Lindros flat out said, I am not playing for the Nordiques. He didn't get drafted and say, I was born to be a Nordique. And then stop talking to them. He was very, very open that he was not going to play for that franchise.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I guess for the Phillies, it would be what, like J.D. McEwing or something, that guy who refused to play for the Phillies all those years ago. J.D. Drew. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, seeing him win the World Series was one of the most maddening baseball experiences of my life.
But, I mean, the whole give each team X number of dollars and a proposed salary cap, that would work for this style of this league, though, when you have to go from one to the other, because you can't just say Major League gets this draft picked, and then all of a sudden there's 36 draft picks later. Now you're giving the teams a whole bunch of freedom, but they have to use all that money. You can't just be like, oh, you get, say, $30 million to sign players. You're spending $30 million. You can't just spend 25 and pocket that 5. It all needs to go out on some sort of prospect.
Yeah, and there's a lot of money in professional sports in general. There's a lot of money in baseball, but here in the US, the NFL dwarfs everybody. I saw something the other day and I only watched it for a couple of minutes, but the Hall of Fame preseason game had 7 million viewers, which just absolutely destroyed any regular season baseball game, and I think any NHL game, even most of the other leagues' playoffs. So I think you had some ideas on how to compete a little bit less with the NFL.
Right.
Because, especially when it's later in the season, the baseball playoffs have started, but really the NFL is dominating. If your team's not in it, you're probably watching the NFL if you're an American. I know I am if the Phillies aren't in it. I really don't care. Baseball's not a sport that I watch the Phillies. I am a Phillies fan. I'm not really a baseball fan, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, because I'll watch any NFL game. I'm gonna watch I'm gonna watch baseball games if it's the Phillies or if there's a compelling story. Like I watched the Subway series back in the day.
And this system can give you compelling stories. That's the thing. You can actually get the compelling stories of the teams that are trying to go from one division to the other that ESPN can talk about, or Fox or any other thing, and get those compelling stories to keep people in it. But to not compete with the NFL, when you have two leagues of 18 teams, you play everybody in your division 12 times. Two series of three at home, two series of three away. You play the other division 6 times, one home, one away. So with 18 teams, that gives you 156 games. Now, granted, that doesn't seem much shorter than the 162 that's currently played, but you take a couple Sundays, especially in the summer, and you play double headers. So if you can get those games in during the week, the goal of this sports science fiction is to try and have the regular season done by Labor Day, which is, I guess, college football would have been kicked off by then. High school football definitely would be kicked off, but the NFL is still in its last ramp up, and it's in its dark days of between the last preseason game and before that opening kickoff game. So you get the league done, and then you start your promotion series. So you have the teams that are in Major League meh, and those top 4 teams, the two and like you cross bracket. So the best of the lower division plays the second place of the other division, and then vice versa. You play the semifinals. You win your semifinal, you're getting promoted. Now, here's the deal. You win that championship, and I'll get to this in a second. You get a big reward if you win the promotion championship and win Major League Now, you don't think the week after Labor Day, the talk of who's going to win a playoff series to get up to the major revenues is not going to dominate somebody? And now, when I say dwarf the NFL, it'll take about maybe a quarter of the NFL viewers away, but still, for another league, that's pretty good.
So I didn't think about this until just a couple minutes ago. But I think one of the reasons why and I think a lot of people will watch the NFL religiously and not as much the MLB has a lot to do with fantasy. I know a lot about players who 30 years ago I never would have known about. I might know who the second receiver on the Cardinals is because I have him on my fantasy team. Um, I can't play fantasy baseball. It's too much of a commitment for me. Would would it affect fantasy baseball at all having the and the league?
No, no, because you can draft. It all depends on what your commissioner wants to do, because you get some commissioners in fantasy football leagues that can make different rules just to keep their leagues interesting. So if you would create a fantasy baseball league, you could say, all right, you're drafting players that are from this league only, and then put your team together of those 18 teams rosters, and then be like, no, we want to be really we want to be the most knowledgeable fantasy league, so we're only going to take it from the people in the major league, just because we want the challenge of finding out who those players are and rooting for them. Now, you want to talk about betting? This can open up, will a team stay up? Will a team get promoted? Will a team get relegated? How close can they get to relegation and still stay up as prop bets, and take bets onto where they would place in either league and be like, oh, well, the Phillies look really good. I'm going to take them to be 6 places from promotion or 6 places from relegation and be like, yeah, I'll take that bet. So it does open the door to new betting and the fantasy draft aspect. The league can say you can have a player from either league because it's still the same baseball, still the same rules. It's just a different financial structure and a different playoff format for each team.
There's definitely not enough stuff to bet on, right?
You can always find more. You can always. I mean, how about it? Like the biggest deal 20 years ago was to bet on the coin toss of the Super Bowl, and now
Yeah.
you can do that for any game.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad I do not have an addictive personality except for with potato chips. So I'm just glad that I do my fantasy football and that's about it. I don't gamble on anything else. When I went to Vegas, I went to a comedy show, the Sphere, took a day trip to the Grand Canyon, did very little gambling. It's just not for me. But yeah, there's so much out there that if you do have an addiction, man, it is I don't know how you could control it because there's just so much to bet on.
I know. I've only made a few sports bets in my life for real. I I was fortunate enough to be a clinician at a roller derby officials clinic up outside of Olean, New York, and that's right by Salamanca. And there's casinos in Salamanca, and they actually had a sports book. So I spent $4, and I think I made a bunch of $1.50 bets on like who's going to be the strikeout leader, what the over under was on the Phillies that year, like little prop bets like that. Yeah, I haven't been back to Salamanca since that. So I still have those tickets and I have no idea if I actually won or not. I probably can't claim them now, but they're the only sports bets I ever made. And I stay off them because I know, not that I get myself in major trouble, but I don't even want to be tempted to make bets because every time I try and make a bet, it seems like a sure thing in my mind that I'm like, son of a gun, I would have lost that bet.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the hardest things to do is to play if you've ever been on a survival league.
Oh,
Oh man, that is so hard. I think I got up to week 11 one time. For those
I
who
think I
don't
did
know,
it. Sorry, you go.
for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's a survival or suicide league is you pick one team per week to win. If your team wins, you advance to the next week. If you lose, you're out. The catch is you can only use that team one time the entire season. And so it sounds pretty easy, but if you want to save those really good teams, then it becomes extremely hard in the beginning of the season. If you want to use those great teams up, then you're left in the later in the season. It's a little bit harder. And the thing about football is there's somebody who comes out of nowhere every year. There's somebody you think is going to be great every year, and they're the exact opposite. I've lost in week one before.
That's rough. I think I was in that league once. It probably was in your league. You probably opened it up and I probably joined it. And I want to say I probably lasted maybe 3 weeks. And I picked a team that seemed head and shoulders above the other one. And me and four of the people went out the same week because we all picked that one team.
Yeah, I've been in these leagues where it was the grand prize of over 20 grand because that many people played. And yeah, that was, I think, like I said, I got to week 11 one time before I got booted out, but I wasn't even close to winning. There were still two or 300 people left at that point. But so, I mean, people can do it. It's possible, but it's tough. So being that you are a referee, let's talk about the changes to baseball because I don't know about you, but the majority of them I absolutely love. Love ABS. Absolutely love it. I like how they haven't taken the human nature away from the game by limiting the amount of times you can challenge if you lose. I love that you can't throw over to first base as many times as you want or second or third. I love that they have that caveat that if you throw over a third time and you don't get him, the guy goes. It could be so frustrating to watch a game go 5 hours because somebody wants to throw over 18 times to let their bullpen get get going. Let's see what else. I like that there's the DH in both leagues now. I was skeptical of that until 2022 when there's no way the Phillies make the World Series unless Bryce Harper gets to be DH. The
No, it's
one
been
rule
good. It's been
change,
good.
yeah, the one rule change I hate is the runner on second to start extra innings. That's
Yeah, a lot
that's
of
BS.
purists
I hate
hate
that.
that. Um, I actually heard a story that in Pennsylvania, some umpire put a runner at second base during the playoffs, be like, "Oh, we're in extra innings. This is what we're supposed to do," and was adamant. And the state came out and said, "No, you're way wrong. You're never getting another playoff game."
You think he was in the major leagues? What the heck?
Yeah, that's what he thought. It's like, oh, this is good. It's a major league rule, so we have to have this rule too. So that's somebody who's not paying attention to what rules his association is putting out there. I can take or leave runner on second. I get it. It's just an added layer of strategy when you get to extra innings because Major League Baseball is just trying to end their game in a certain window. But ABS has been great. The only caveat I'm putting on that is when I watch some of the umpire videos, ABS is in the middle of the plate of where the ball is crossing it versus the umpire. I don't know how I want to say it. What the Major League Baseball looks at to see how well the umpires are calling the game, that is at the front of the plate. So depending on how the ball is traveling through the strike zone, the Major League Baseball system for evaluation could say it was a strike, but by the time it gets to the middle of the plate, it could be completely outside the league, and ABS would call it a ball. So Major League Baseball could potentially say, hey, that was a good call, but it was still overturned on a challenge by ABS. So maybe if, again, they have the money to try and fix this, but to merge the technologies to get an entire box rather than just a sheet of paper kind of deal for the challenges, I think would probably just take it to the next level. But ABS has been great. You just got to challenge it right away because some batters are taking that split second and some people are getting tossed over it because they're like, oh, well, I challenged it right away. No, you didn't. And now you got the human element of, is the umpire right or is the player right?
Yeah, I do think that it's definitely decreased the arguing.
I just think the
Despite,
arguing has gotten more intense because now all of a sudden
yes,
you're not supposed to argue after this. Like it's come from New York, deal with it. Someone else has ruled above us, and umpires are coming out still, or not umpires, managers are still coming out hot because they're like they didn't get their way. And it's like they're just more fiery over how they think it should have been handled from New York, and it was different than what they think it should have been.
yeah, and sometimes rules are ambiguous, so I understand getting heated, especially in the moment. One rule change I forgot to mention, and I also love it. Pitchers might disagree, but the pitch clock, absolutely love it. I, you know, games aren't games can finish in 2 hours now, which never used to happen. It would, be a solid 3, 4 hours almost every game. So I love that change as well.
I really enjoy it too to sit down and watch a game in potentially 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's been great. Major League Baseball moved up the start times. I was always a fan of the 7:07:05 game, and I do not like 6:40 or 6:30 start times. That's what I don't like. That's what I was.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. I don't like that. I don't know why they did that. It seems like that would be really hard. I mean, I live way far away from the stadiums now. So if I'm going to a Phillies game, I have to plan accordingly anyway. But I mean, if you live in the city and you work right around, not right around there, but let's say like a half hour away, um, that used to be something you could just easily get to after work. And
Right.
now I feel like you've got to really plan, even if you live right by your stadium. I don't like that either at all. I don't know why they did that.
Again, I think they're trying to get the younger viewers who have to go to bed early to try and get the games in that window. Because now, if you start at 6:40, now you potentially could be done about 8:45, and depending on how old your kids are, they might be able to stay up to 9 o'clock. But really, I'm not a fan of it. Now, I wish Major League Baseball would do more day games because apparently in the third game of a series, they call it a getaway game. You're allowed to start so many hours earlier. And so like on a Wednesday, if a team plays a series Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the last game, they can start the game at like 1:30 so they can get the other team on the plane earlier to get to their next destination. sometimes it would be awesome to get a Tuesday day, do a morning game at say 1 p.m. and then an afternoon game at 6:30. And that's another way you can get your 2 games in so you're done by Labor Day, not just on a Sunday. So like weekday doubleheaders. Now, I'm sure teams will charge for both games. That's their prerogative. Can't just buy one ticket and have it good for 2 games. But again, you have a doubleheader once a week, maybe twice even. Guess what? You get more games in. You can have potentially an extra day off in the week and still have everything done by Labor Day. So your playoffs are only competing with a regular season football game as compared to your playoffs against a really meaningful NFL game in November.
I love when a trade happens during a doubleheader. I think it's absolutely hilarious when a guy is on. There was a dude, I can't remember who it was or what teams were involved, but the 2 teams were playing each other, and he was traded between those 2 teams either during the first game or in between the 2 games, and he played. I'm just going to take 2 arbitrary teams. I'm going to say it was the Cardinals and the Astros. I know it wasn't, but I'm just naming 2 teams. He played game 1 for the Astros and game 2 for the Cardinals. It was just like fantastic. I think that is so freaking funny when that happens.
This is funny, and I may have told you this story before. So when I was working in Allentown, the Iron Pigs had a player that was their shortstop. And he was a very good player, one of their better prospects. They were playing an 11:35 game against the was the Indians, the Guardians, their farm team. In the middle of that game is when the Cliff Lee trade went down between the Guardians and the Phillies, and that guy was part of the trade. So he was up to bat for the Iron Pigs. They called him back, said go to the other clubhouse, and played the rest of the game for that Guardians franchise, and then had to go with that team at the end of the series in 2 days and pack everything up and go. I felt a little bad for the guy. That's a funny situation, but I felt bad for the athlete because it's like, oh, I live here, I play here. Oh my God, I have to find housing where?
Yeah, it's funny from an outsider's point of view, but yeah, definitely for the guy it's happening to, it's not quite as humorous.
But yeah, he got called out of the on deck circle to go to the other clubhouse because that's when the trade happened. The trade happened early in the day, and it just so happened that these teams were playing each other at the AAA level.
I wanted to go back to something. So you talked about lessening the amount of games in the season. I love that. I think that most leagues are too long. The NHL is expanding to 84 games, up from 82 this year. The NFL recently went from 16 to 17, and they're almost certainly going to go to 18. I think that it makes it more intense. It makes the regular season a lot more interesting when there's fewer games, which might be another reason why I'm more into football than I am into baseball, because every game matters a lot more. The one thing that I think people would whine about with that is records. You got 6 fewer games now to get those to break those records.
I mean, at least in this sports science fiction, it would be you'd go the opposite way. Now you have 6 less games to get the same record. But I mean, I think with any record, depending on how devoted you are to the record holder, you are going to get pushback on any record. I mean, for how many years was it Roger Maris had the asterisk for 61 because he had 12 extra games than Babe Ruth had, and Hank Aaron had how many more games to get to 715 than Babe Ruth had at 714? So the player lives in their time era and they have to deal with their time era. And baseball has this argument because the game has essentially not stayed the same, but has been consistent enough with the rules that you can compare everything from post dead ball to modern baseball. And that's a luxury not all sports can say that they can do. Like in theory, soccer can probably do that because the laws of the game haven't really changed in since they've created them. I mean, a couple fine tweaking, but like a soccer game from the 1800s is still relatively the same to what it is now, just different technologies. Football has gone through some changes, but they arbitrarily put the common era as their most modern football because that's when the AFL and NFL merged. But in theory, can the previous iterations of football, those records, can they be counted because the rules are somewhat similar?
Yeah, that asterisk. They even had a Roger Maris movie. It was 61 asterisk. It wasn't just 61. And then they got rid of
Yeah.
it, even though I think McGuire had more time than Maris had, right? But they took away the asterisk for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Even
I
though
mean,
he should
everyone.
have an asterisk for a different reason, but
Yeah, no,
I'm
there's a
gonna
lot
shy
that
away
should
from that
be. A lot of
topic.
people should, in theory, have that too. But I mean, as much as I don't want to say this, but it's technically true. They were playing within the rules of the game as the game was being played, which is
Yeah,
different than what it's now. Now, what it should
right.
is now is the way it should have been. But as much as I want to give Major League Players Association as much credit as they can in these negotiations, that was one that may have hurt them in the long run or hurt their players in the long run of what they decided to do with all those testing policies.
Yeah. Speaking of playing within the rules of the game, one of the rule changes I kind of uh, mentioned, but we didn't really talk about. What do you think of the DH? Because
I
I hated it, like I said, until it benefited the Phillies. When Harper was going to be too injured to play the field and he got to DH and the Phillies got to the World Series, I was like, okay, I'm sold. And it's a little bit more exciting. I think it makes a no-hitter a, not a lot, but a little bit more meaningful that they didn't have that almost automatic out against the pitcher. But what do you think about the DH?
I was skeptical of it at first in the National League. I mean, AL has been doing it since the 70s, but the National League always held true to pitchers batting. It led to other problems, but I did truly enjoy the gamesmanship of some managers. Like Tony La Russa was famous for putting his pitcher in the 8 spot instead of the 9 spot to try and encourage lineup rollover, with your 9-1-2 being more valuable than the pitcher at 9, then your leadoffs come through. I love that gamesmanship, and I also loved the screw ups when managers would do the wrong lineup and the pitchers were ruled to have to bat in like the 5th or 6th spot because the manager messed up. That was my favorite part of that. The DH has grown with me. I would have loved to seen though, because one of the proposals initially for the DH was you have a DH as long as your starter pitcher is still pitching. Because in one of the initial itinerations was once your starting pitcher's out, you lose your DH, and now someone's got to bat in that spot, which I thought that would have been a really interesting strategy move, but very complex rule set you'd have to put in for it. That not that fans don't understand the rules, but now you're like, all right, what's going on? What's going on here? Well, they're taking the DH out. They're subbing this guy in. It's like you'd have to do a triple switch, not the old double switch when you took a pitcher out, you know?
I think I could get behind that if they expanded the bullpens. You know, add two more guys, two more active pitchers. I think I'd be okay with that.
It could work. I mean, almost in this day and age, I know 25 has been the limit for rosters in the regular season for a very long time with the 40-man roster in September, but I wouldn't mind expanding the roster to 30 in Major League, but you have to only have so many pitchers yet. Like if you expand by 5 people, you can't add 5 more pitchers. You have to only allow 3 more pitchers, and 2 of those new players have to be field players of some sort. So maybe you can carry a third catcher or an extra out. Probably more likely teams will carry extra outfielders or that utility player that can play infield or outfield. Just because I'll never forget it. The one I think it was I was at an Iron Pigs game in Allentown, and I think it was the first inning, an outfielder got rung up and really let the umpire have it, and he got tossed, and you barely saw the getting thrown out motion, and then you see another guy run, the only other outfielder running onto the field to take his spot. Like now you're all your outfielders are out there, so now it's going to limit your substitution capabilities. So
yeah, that 40-man roster was crazy. That was way too many people. It's 28 now. I think 30 would be reasonable. I really do. I think 30 is reasonable. One of my favorite things about seeing a guy get kicked out or something like that is just watching somebody who's not used to playing a position have to go out there and play, especially when somebody pitches. This is usually more because a team's getting blown out, but
right.
when a position player has to go out there and pitch. One of my favorites was, I believe it was Roy Oswalt had to go play left field because who was it? Ibanez came in to play first because Ryan Howard got kicked out of a game. Only game he ever got kicked out of. He was a pretty mellow guy, but he just had it with the umpire that night. And then Oswald's out there in left field. But yeah, my favorite is absolutely, and it's usually, like I said, it's usually not because of ejections, but watching a position player pitch. I think it's hilarious because they're up there lobbing. They're just trying to get it over the plate, lobbing at like 45 miles per hour.
Yeah, just get outs, right? Somehow get an
Yeah.
out.
Last year, I can't remember who the Phillies were playing, but Schwarber hit 4 dingers. And the Phillies were just absolutely, I think it was the Twins, but I could be wrong on that. And the Phillies were just absolutely crushing this team. Well, nobody has ever hit 5 home runs in one game. The opposing team put out a position player, and Schwarber's thinking, wow, I can get 5. And he asked somebody, when's the last time someone's hit 5 home runs in one game? And it's never happened. And he said after the game, he's like, I really wish I hadn't asked that question. So maybe I would have done it. Maybe I would have rocketed that 40-mile-per-hour pitch out of there, but I think he was trying too hard. He wanted to be the first to do it. And, he was thinking about it too much.
Oh, so you want to get eyes on, you talked earlier about getting eyes on the sport, right? Especially in football season. So let's talk about a way, and let me go into how divisions would be structured in this new league. Okay. So Major League Baseball has the money. They always keep it regional. Guess what? Who cares? You can spend your money. At the end of every season, maybe a week after all the champions are declared, everybody comes together and you draw for your division the next year. So everybody gets a baseball. Think about it, a baseball in a bag. You draw a baseball out. Red is, say, the Jackie Robinson division. A blue ball is the, let's say, Roberto Clemente division. Each team goes up, pulls out the ball. So you have 8 teams, 8 balls. They go up. You see where they're at. The team that wins the promotion battle gets to pick what division they want to go to. And then the other team gets put in the other division. So the 16 promoted teams get their draw. So you can have the Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox all in one division, and say like the Tigers, Cubs, White Sox in another division, and just that's how it is. And that promotion winner gets to pick. Now, think of those sponsorship opportunities. You don't think Rawlings or Crown Royal would want a baseball drawn out of their bag in front of a national audience? And you don't think sports talk is going to talk about, this because we're going to get the promotion. The teams are going to get promoted. We're going to know who they are because their series is going to be finished before the Major League A playoffs even happen. So in that week and a half between the end of the regular season, that's when you have your promotion relegation series. All eyes on baseball as to who's going to get promoted, who's going to get relegated. And then after the World Series is over, you make your draws as to what divisions these teams will be in. And like I said, you don't think sports talk that whole playoff series is going to talk about who's going to what division should, let's just say the Angels get promoted. You don't think ESPN is going to talk, well, what division should the Angels be in? Well, if you get these teams, should they be here? If it's these teams, should it go to this one? Which teams would be the strength for the Angels to stay up in this new division? Who would they match up better against, given the choices of a random draw? And like I said, you don't think Crown will spend money to get a giant purple Crown Royal bag to have poker chips or Crown Royal caps or a Crown Royal bottle come out of their bag to say, hey, we're in this division.
Right. I think I actually love that idea. That's so cool and unique. I think the one issue with that would be logistics. That would be a scheduling nightmare for for the schedule makers.
No, I get it. And here's how you can counter that very easily. You would have to create a schedule based off of, say, just unnamed teams. So Team A, Team B, Team C, they all have these schedules. So like A versus F for this series on these dates, G versus B on these dates, and have a schedule that's made in the summer that teams can look at. And then when you make your draw, because if you end the regular season in September, your playoff should be all of September. So early October, you can do the draw. Like baseball is still hot because you just finished the World Series. You do the draw, and then teams have from October through March to try and schedule hotels. Or Major League Baseball can be like, okay, you guys stay at the same hotels anyway. We'll just block rooms at these hotels, and whatever team fills into this slot, here are your hotel rooms already.
That's cool. It would also promote a lot of new rivalries. I mean, like, yeah. What do I care about the White Sox right now? Maybe I would if if the Phillies were playing against them 12 times a year.
I mean, and you might have the White Sox in your division one year and then the Dodgers in your division the next. And now you're talking about, well, who do we want in our division, or what teams can draw into our division that can be really beneficial to us? So now that's extra talking points that people can talk about baseball or debate about baseball on the internet, on the radio, and all the talking shows that are across the sports networks.
Yeah, I think anything to get more eyes on the sport. I think now one thing that people would complain about is the existing rivalries. That said, I mean, there are some natural rivalries like the Yankees and the Mets, and they see each other once a year. So this would be, a way to get that. But then I think there's people who would be saying, oh, well, we want that Yankees Red Sox rivalry. We want that Phillies Mets rivalry. We don't want to lose that. I think that's, just going back to the NFL, that's one of the reasons why the Cowboys are still in the NFC East, even though it makes no geographical sense.
No, I get it. And up until the mid 90s, when the NFL switched the current division and how it rotates, the Giants played the Browns every year from like the 30s up until the 90s. And they're like, well, no, we can't do this anymore because we're going to this schedule type. So even if it's not a division, there were other rivalries, but all it takes is one player being hit to all of a sudden have a rivalry.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think people dislike about going back to the DH is that if you intentionally beat a guy, there's really no retribution for your pitcher, to go and hit him. But I always thought it was kind of dumb to nail the pitcher anyway, because that was a free out 90% of the time. Go and beat their star player. That was always my take on that.
No, like I think you need to get somebody else. Like let the emotions boil over. But like in most times, pitchers protected pitchers. So even when they did hit somebody, it was kind of in the thigh or leg. They didn't want to like hit him in the chest unless they really hated the guy.
All right. So in this sports science fiction scenario, let's just say that we were already utilizing this system. What would it look like right now? Who would be in the and the?
So I looked this up on a website right before we got on. So the standings as of our recording in the Major League A would be the Brewers, the Rays, the Braves, the Dodgers, Cubs, Yankees, Red Sox, Diamondbacks, the Phillies, Padres, White Sox, Astros, Rangers, Marlins, Cardinals, Twins, Nationals, and then the last team in would be the Tigers. They are according to the website, those are the top 18 teams in Major League Baseball by record. Now, the season has a couple more weeks as we're recording it, so that could change. But right now, the last team in would be the Tigers. The first team out in Major League would be the Guardians, followed by the Pirates, Orioles, Reds, Blue Jays, Mariners, Mets, Giants, Royals, A's, Rockies, and apparently the Angels, as of recording, have the worst record in baseball.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And then, like I said, if you were going to expand 6 more teams, so if you were going to bring in 6 more teams in, say, 4 years, so if this was the last day of the regular season 4 years from now, the Guardians to the Angels would be relegated to Major League with the new 6 expansion teams, and the Tigers and up would be in Major League A.
Would you automatically start the expansion teams in A?
I think they should go in just because it would be a good place to start, because most teams take a year or two to get their footing, even if they potentially draft it well. And then it would give the other teams that just got relegated a slightly better chance to get promoted, to get back to Major League A instead of staying in for a little while. Okay?
Let's look. I'm not gonna share the screen or anything, but let's just look at the United States and Canada. Let's come up with 6 cities.
All right. So now the first thing I'm going to say is there are a few cities in this country that probably can support a second franchise. I mean, not that you want to split the Phillies fan base, but I think Philadelphia, in theory, could support a second major league franchise. Like in the early 1900s, and I know super history, but the Athletics and the Phillies coexisted for about 60 years together here in Philadelphia. So I think Philadelphia could, in theory, support a second franchise. Won't happen, but I'd like to say they could support a second franchise. But I mean, everyone nostalgically wants to go back to Montreal.
That was the first Canadian city that came to my mind too, and I always worry about going back to a city that had a team and lost it.
If you want to go to Canada, though, Vancouver, they've supported other franchises. Now, granted, the Grizzlies were in Vancouver before they moved to Memphis, but I feel like Vancouver can potentially host a Major League Baseball team. It's on the West Coast. It's another team that's out west in that time zone. You can potentially have a national. You kind of get a geographic rivalry with Seattle. I mean, isn't there a little bit of a in the MLS between the Sounders and is it the Whitecaps in Vancouver? Don't they have a little rivalry going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Whitecaps gave the Union their biggest loss of all time last year, 7-0.
Oh, that does not help your goal differential. I mean, Portland's starting to show a lot of sports that they get mentioned for a lot of things. I mean, the Trailblazers right now are the only like Big Four team there, but like, was it the Thorns and the Portland Timber? Wait, Timber something in soccer.
Well, I think they are the Timber, yeah, or Timbers.
Okay.
Might be. Say, I mean, Utah, possibly. Utah would be. What about a state that doesn't have a current major, one of the major 4, like let's just say Santa Fe.
I mean, has been making it work.
Mhm.
You can, what was it, Oklahoma City maybe might be a good one too. I mean, granted, you get in that area, college football is king, but the Thunder have made great strides as a franchise in the middle of the country. So in theory, you're getting a team in the central time zone, which is if it's not east, it's better to get your games at a decent start time, you know. So Oklahoma City could be one, Santa Fe, um, Vancouver. Oh, I mean,
Could go Calgary or Winnipeg in Canada.
yeah, you just have to. I mean, if you're trying to end your games in September, March would be a little harsh up there weather-wise, but that's not
Yeah.
that's
I'm
not the
assuming that I'm assuming they'll all have domes.
yeah, you would probably have to have a dome up there. I mean, it gets nice in the summer, I think, up there. It's just the March and September might get a little iffy. I think that's why the Canadian Football League starts so early. Like they're going now, and their playoffs are done by like October because like Edmonton and Saskatchewan, it gets cold up there.
I think either Virginia or one of the Carolinas could also support a baseball team.
I mean, Raleigh. I mean, think about it, that's where the Panthers are, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the
Uh,
Hornets,
the
Charlotte.
Hurricanes. Hurricanes.
Oh, the Hurricanes. Oh, wait, no, it's the Bobcats. I'm trying to say the Bobcats from the basketball.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the NHL because that would be the
No,
Hurricanes in Raleigh. But
I'm confusing my leagues. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
all good.
But yeah, North Carolina could probably host a team. I
Yeah.
mean, Norfolk, Virginia would probably be able to host a AAA affiliate from a new Major League Baseball team. I mean, how many places that lost a team when they contracted minor league could probably get a team back and have a decent infrastructure all ready to go so a team can just step in and start playing either the International League or the Pacific Coast League.
Yeah. Tennessee might be a good place. There's a lot. I think that ultimately it could work.
Do you think Houston can host a second team? Like, because I mean,
Mhm.
Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, like that whole triangle of teams in Texas. There's a lot of people, and supposedly Houston's a big growing city. That potentially a second one there.
I don't know. I don't think I think it's one thing when you're starting a new league to create two teams. When you already have an existing one that's got a really dedicated fan base, I just don't know if it could work. I don't think a second team would fly well in Philly unless they were like way cheaper than the Phillies. Same thing with the Astros. I think they'd have to be unbelievably cheaper for people to get excited about them and go to their games.
I know it's not the early 1900s anymore, but I was just like, I still just believe that given the right team name, the right circumstances, and the right backing, there can be at least some fans in Philadelphia that can get behind a new team a little bit. That Philadelphia could potentially have two, much like Chicago and New York and Los Angeles. Because I don't know of any other real city that could potentially host to what market could be there for two.
Yeah, I don't think there's not a lot. There's not a lot. It's hard to have two teams in the same city.
No, I know, especially in this modern age. And I mean, I remember watching a YouTube video about how the Oriole owner put the kiboshes on any team in DC for years until Major League kind of was like, all right, what kind of concessions do we have to make to get the Nationals down there from Montreal?
Here, I'm gonna pick six cities. I'm gonna say Santa Fe, just because I want one in a place where that doesn't have any teams. I'm gonna say Santa Fe. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Portland. Um, Let's do a couple Canadas. Let's do a couple in Canada. Vancouver, Calgary, Raleigh, and the last one's top. I'm gonna say either Oklahoma City or or one of the main cities in Tennessee, either Nashville or Memphis.
I'm going to say let's take out Calgary. Not that's because they won't support the team, but just because of the major weather concerns, and say Salt Lake City.
Yeah, Salt Lake City. Yeah,
And
they're
then you get
supporting they've got the Mammoths and they've got the Jazz. So yeah, they have the ability to support a major league team.
and then like you said, Memphis or Knoxville or one of those towns in Tennessee. I mean, we talk about expansion. We glossed over Oakland, didn't even come into our top 7 or 8 as a
I
team,
didn't
even
even.
though, like, in theory, they might be, if they would do what they needed to do, or they could probably host a team easily. But I think there's too many roadblocks infrastructure wise of what they have going on and how they've let things lapse to be able to get a team back in 3 years.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember watching not that I watched the game, but I watched some of the footage of the last athletics game, and they're showing all these people who are acting all sad about how the athletics are going. I'm like, where have you been the past decade? You looked at an athletics game and it was 85% empty seats, and now you're saying like how much you're going to miss the athletics and everything. What are you talking about?
I mean, Tampa Bay is going to do the same thing. Like, if the
Hmm?
Rays have to move out of whatever, well, they've already had trouble with that stadium after that hurricane. Are people going to be that sad if the Rays have to move, say, to North Carolina because they can't get a new stadium or whatever in Florida?
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
I have always, not always, but for a long time, I have been an advocate of getting the Rays and the Marlins out of where they are. They don't draw at all. It's just not good business. And I mean, the Marlins, when they feel like spending money, they go out and buy themselves a World Series. So they can, but but they don't. For the most part, you just see empty seat after empty seat, unless a team that travels well, you'll see a lot of Phillies fans in Miami.
I mean, think about it. They're selling tickets. Doesn't matter to who, right? Like, you get
Yeah.
these cold
Yeah.
weather teams. Hey, we're playing in Miami. Want to spend the weekend in Miami?
Mhm.
Get 2 game tickets, go to the Miami Beach, a 4-day trip. I mean, travel agents should be lapping that up from Minnesota in April.
Right.
Hey, Twins at Miami in April 15th. Guess what? It's warmer there. Let's go have fun in Miami.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about the playoff structure.
So we're going to go with Major League A first. So you have 2 divisions in the one league. So division champion of the one league is your 1. The other division champion is 2, regardless of record seeded wise. The division champion of the league with the higher, they're the 3 seed. The other team, the number 2 of the other division, is the 4 seed. So you have a division champion and runner up. They're in opposite divisions, to one opposite sides of the bracket. 5 through 8 are seeded based on record. So you have 4 predetermined seeds and 4 spots for teams that can get in regardless of division. So if you have one division that's way stronger than the other, you can get all 4. You can get all 4 teams from that one division into playoffs if the other one sucks, and that's their fault. So 2 teams from each division guaranteed. After that, best records, and then 5 through 8 are seeded in that order. So the 8 team plays 1, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. And then once they're seeded, they just work their way through the tournament like the NCAA basketball tournament. No reseeding, no nothing. Just get them in. And however it works out is how it works out. In the Major League promotion battle, it's division champ, division runner-up, 4 teams. We're gonna keep that one separate because only 4 teams need a shot to go up, because that's what you're playing for. You're playing for your chance to get to Major League A, and that pick your division. Once everyone else has drawn their divisions, you get to say, I'm going to this division because I feel we can win this one.
Because this comes with expansion, I like the idea of the 8-team tournament. I've always been of the mindset that the fewer teams going into the playoffs, the better, because it makes the regular season more intense. I think that way too many teams get in the NHL. 16 is way too many, in my opinion. So I actually liked when it was only 4 teams, but if you're going up to 36 teams, then I think 8 is an appropriate number of getting into the postseason.
I mean, if you look at it, you have the two leagues have 18 teams in them each. So 8 out of 18 is about 43%, 45%, give or take. It's not half. I mean, historically, when the NHL only had 24 teams back in the 80s and 70s, 16 teams still got in. And that was 60% of the league went to playoffs. I think that's way too high. Depending on how the league is, 50% is too high. I think some leagues overvalue their playoff games. Like, I know they want more playoff games because they think they can sell them and networks will buy them. But realistically, a playing game from baseball and basketball, they might be fun, but it's like you're just basically doing a cash grab. What's it really proving? That the team that wins a playing game can get smoked by the 1 seed, the Thunder, let's say, in the NBA playoffs?
I did enjoy the 1-game wild card in Major League Baseball. That was intense. I liked that. It was like you knew you were having a game 7 every year. I enjoyed that.
I can see that happening, but at least with these playoff formats, in theory, you can probably expand the Major League playoffs to 8 as well to fight for promotion. But the whole point of it is to keep the playoffs short so that everybody has eyes on them during the week before football starts.
Chip, thanks so much for being here today and talking a little sports science fiction. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad we can coin that phrase. We need to patent that, trademark it, and have other people try and use it so they pay us royalties.
There we go.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been fun to discuss all this stuff.
All right. Well, again, thanks, and I will see you next time.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Go Birds.